At all levels, policies to combat climate change aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. At international level, at the COP21 in 2015, member states committed to submit their national contributions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to keep global warming below 2 degrees by 2050. To calculate the impact of an organization's or a company's greenhouse gas emissions, a carbon footprint or a GHG report is compiled. When talking about carbon footprints, it is important to distinguish between three scopes. These scopes enable organizations to identify the sources of the pollution they generate and therefore to act more easily to reduce them. Scope 1 corresponds to direct emissions resulting from the combustion of fossil fuels, oil, gas, coal, used to heat our buildings, operate our construction equipment, and drive our vehicles. These are the company's assets. Scope 2 relates to indirect emissions from our consumption of electricity to heat and power our buildings and electric vehicles. These emissions depend on the country's energy mix, thus there can be significant differences even within Europe. Today, the business units are committed to their Scopes 1 and 2 and can act directly on them. One of the priorities of Vinci's environmental ambition is to take action for the climate. The group has committed to reducing its greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030. To achieve this goal, many actions can be implemented at business unit level. 95% of Scope 1 and 2 emissions are linked to our fleet of vehicles and equipment. So it is essential to transform our fleet with lower emission vehicles and construction equipment running on lower carbon energy sources such as low carbon electricity, biofuels, and low carbon hydrogen. The remaining 5% is related to the energy consumption of buildings. This can be reduced by using less carbon-intensive energy sources, such as heat pumps powered by low-carbon electricity or biomass boilers powered by locally and sustainably produced biomass. For Scope 2, preference can be given to low-carbon electricity supply contracts, improving the energy performance of our buildings, or installing renewable energy production sources in our buildings, such as solar, wind power, etc. Scope 3 corresponds to greenhouse gas emissions outside the business unit. It is commonly referred to as upstream Scope 3 and downstream Scope 3. Upstream Scope 3 concerns our suppliers. It takes into account the emissions involved in the purchase of supplies and services, transport and packaging of these supplies. If we install an electrical cable, for example, we will have to calculate all of the emissions associated with the extraction of raw materials, their transformation, assembly, and transport to our companies. Downstream Scope 3 concerns our customers. It records the emissions associated with the use of our installations and their end of life. For example, if we install a LED light source, we will need to take into account all the emissions linked to its use, electricity consumption over its lifetime, as well as the emissions related to its end of life, waste treatment. Vinci Energy has decided to create a third category, Scope 3 operations, which includes business travel by plane, train, car, commuting to and from work, excluding company cars, and direct emissions from our subcontractors.